Konami sure had a great run with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I've already expressed my love for Turtles in Time, the Super Nintendo classic. I never had played Hyperstone Heist until I did the 16-bit superhero series. And I started this whole series because I love superheroes and I love video games, and it was that Spider-Man game from Insomniac that got me thinking, you know what, there's a bunch of great superhero titles I've never played. It has led me down a long, winding road to this title for the Sega Genesis. I spent some real money for this cartridge. It's a bit of a collectible out there, as is Turtles in Time for the Super Nintendo, but I'm very glad that I have this in my collection. I don't like this as much as Turtles in Time, although it has great production values. It has, a cool little story sequence in there where we've got the Turtles watching April O'Neil give this news report, and then all kinds of hell breaks loose, and we see this crazy giant-sized shredder take apart Manhattan, and all the Turtles are crowded around the TV, and they've got Splinter there, and they're all like, what do we do? And then they go off into battle, and they fight hordes of different types of ninjas and little robots that run around. Everybody explodes when you beat them up. I had a good laugh about that. Everything explodes every time. I guess it was the early 90s. This came out in 1992. And that's what you did in video games. You punched somebody until they fell over and exploded. And that's what happens in this game over and over again. Shell shock. You go through a bunch of different areas in this game. Some of it feels a little bit similar to Turtles in Time, and I think this was kind of an amalgam of some of the stuff that Konami did for the arcade, as well as some of the stuff that's in Turtles in Time, which was also an arcade game. Basically, I think they rushed out and said, look, we got to have a fun beat 'em up with the Turtles on the Sega Genesis, because people love the Turtles. Let's make sure that they're everywhere, and that's not a bad decision, let's be honest. And it's not to say that this game is kind of an also-ran or, a wannabe or anything like that. It's fun in its own right, for sure. There's definitely some strategies, working together, punching and beating up all of the bad guys. I miss the scaling, though. I miss the idea of taking a bad guy and hurling him towards the screen, which is one of my favorite elements of Turtles in Time. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know you will in the comments down below, but I was never able to pull that move off. Maybe it was a question of the developers not really being able to tap into the architecture of the Sega Genesis, or maybe the Genesis wasn't able to do that kind of Mode 7 scaling type thing. For whatever reason, you can't huck the bad guys towards the screen, and I really did like that as part of Turtles in Time. I also felt like the story for this game was a bit chunked up and convoluted compared to the nonsensical story of Turtles in Time, where you get zapped into a time machine and suddenly you're in dinosaur land and pirate land and stuff. In this one, you're in, the sewers, and then you're in New York, and then you're on a ghost ship, which kind of looks like a pirate ship, and then you're in, like an underground lair, and then finally you're fighting all kinds of bosses in this gauntlet thing, which was a bit frustrating, because you have to get past Krang, and you got to get past Leatherhead and Rocksteady. And then there's this other guy. I don't really know who the guy is, but he's floating around inside of a spaceship, almost like a Dr. Robotnik type guy. I don't know who this guy is. I didn't read the Turtles comic books. I always dug them, but I didn't become a super fan. It's really playing these 16-bit games that's making me realize, oh my god, these Turtles are really freaking cool. Now I'm getting a bit obsessed. I'm going to get those NECA action figures, because they made action figures of the Turtles from Turtles in Time. I got to get those. They look amazing. So I'm starting to fall in love, but I don't know all the lore. I do know that beating Shredder at the end of this game is very freaking hard. It's really hard to kind of figure out the patterns there. But you know what? The core of this game is crazy fun, especially if you play with somebody else. It's very fast, it's very fluid, the music is really bouncy. It does repeat a lot. I found it a little more annoying than the music in Turtles in Time, and I don't know if it's the same music or the way that it's been crafted for the Genesis. It's not the sound quality, it's just the repetitious nature of the music over and over again. And if you couple that with kind of the repetitious nature of the level design, I find it less inviting for anybody, for any sort of fan level of the Turtles. I think there is this universal appreciation for how cool the idea of the Turtles are, but I don't know if everybody comes at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as a super fan. And Turtles in Time, I think the onboarding is a lot better because the gameplay is just a little bit more tuned and there's a little bit more of a comedic craftsmanship to the storytelling than in Hyperstone Heist, but it's still terrific. I don't think it beats the Super Nintendo game, but I do think it's very fun, and I do love that this is a part of my collection, even though I paid top dollar for it, and you're going to have to too if you want to get it for your Sega Genesis or your Mega SG or what have you. I think this game is great. It's not the best 16-bit superhero game I've been playing recently, but it's definitely fun. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10.